The rain hammered against Anakin's fighter as crimson blaster fire split the storm-darkened skies above Tipoca City. Another separatist assault on the cloning facilities, the third in as many months, but this one felt different. "Master, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the submerged platforms." The Force whispered warnings that made his skin crawl beneath his flight suit. "Concentrate on the battle, Anakin. Rex reports droid forces attempting to breach the lower genetics labs." But Anakin couldn't shake it. Something ancient pulsed beneath the waves. As he barrel rolled through 2 banking clan frigates, the sensation grew stronger. The Separatists weren't here for the clones, they were searching for something else. An explosion rocked the eastern platform as a Trident-class assault ship erupted from beneath the churning ocean, its drill arms tearing through durasteel like flimsy. Through the transparasteel corridors, Anakin watched clone troopers scrambling as water rushed in. "Generals, we've got a breach in sub-level 7. The clankers are heading straight for the restricted vaults, the ones even the Kaminoans don't talk about." Anakin's mechanical hand tightened on the control stick. The Kaminoans had secrets, everyone knew that. But what could be important enough to risk an entire invasion fleet? "I'm going in." "Anakin, wait for—" Anakin was already ejecting from his fighter, using the Force to guide his descent through the shattered dome. His boots hit the ankle-deep water with a splash, lightsaber already ignited, casting blue light across the sterile white walls now scarred by blaster marks. Ahead, through the chaos of battle, he felt it calling, something that resonated with the Force in ways he'd never experienced. Whatever the Separatist wanted, he'd reach it first. Anakin's lightsaber carved through the last super battle droid as he reached the vault's entrance. The massive door bore symbols he recognized, ancient Jedi markings, predating even the Republic. His mechanical fingers traced the weathered inscriptions as Rex and his men secured the corridor behind him. "General, we've got about 5 minutes before another wave hits. Whatever you're looking for, make it quick." The Force guided Anakin's hand to a specific sequence of symbols. As he pressed them, the vault groaned open, revealing a chamber that shouldn't exist. Not here, not in a facility barely a decade old. The room stretched back into darkness, lined with artifacts that hummed with Force energy. How is this possible? The Kaminoans had built their city atop something far older. At the chamber's heart sat a crystalline pyramid, no larger than his fist, suspended in a containment field. Unlike Sith holocrons he'd encountered, this pulsed with neutral Force energy, neither light nor dark, but something between. Ancient Jedi texts appeared in his mind, half-remembered lessons from the archives about Force techniques lost in time. Force walking. Legend spoke of Jedi who could traverse the echoes of significant events, experiencing them as observers, learning from moments that shaped destiny itself. An explosion shook the facility. Through the Force, Anakin felt Obi-Wan's alarm as more Separatist reinforcements arrived. Time was running out. His hand reached for the artifact before wisdom could stop him. The moment his fingers touched the crystal surface, the universe exploded into fragments of time. He saw himself, countless versions across infinite moments, a child on Tatooine, a Padawan on Geonosis, a knight leading the 501st, and darker versions, a figure in black armor, a lightsaber piercing younglings, Padme's dying breath. "No!" But the artifact had already begun its work. The chamber dissolved around him as he felt himself pulled into the time stream itself. "General! General Skywalker!" Rex's shouts faded to nothing as Anakin Skywalker fell through the very fabric of the Force, toward moments that would define not just his fate, but the galaxy's. Anakin materialized in scorching heat, the twin suns of Tatooine bearing down on familiar moisture farms. But this wasn't memory. He could feel every grain of sand, smell the bantha fodder in the wind. He was here, yet not here, standing in the echo of a moment burned into his soul. His younger self burst through the doorway of the Lars homestead, lightsaber ignited, face twisted in rage he remembered all too well. Anakin watched himself discover his mother, broken and dying in that Tusken camp. But now, removed from the immediate grief, he saw something else. Palpatine's influence, subtle as shadow, had been there even then. The Chancellor's words echoing in his younger self's mind. "Your anger gives you focus, makes you stronger. I killed them all!" Anakin felt the moment differently now. The grief was real, but the path from grief to slaughter, that had been cultivated, encouraged. Seeds planted during late-night conversations in the Chancellor's office. The scene shifted without warning. Suddenly he stood in the council chambers, watching himself argue with Mace Windu about being granted the rank of Master. But now he could feel the Force currents in the room. Yoda's deep concern, Windu's frustration born not from distrust, but from fear for what Anakin might become. Obi-Wan's desperate hope that his former Padawan would prove them wrong. They weren't against me. They were afraid for me. Another shift, the Opera House. Palpatine weaving the tragedy of Darth Plagueis with the skill of a master manipulator. Anakin watched his younger self lean in, desperate for any hope of saving Padme. But now he could see what he'd missed. Palpatine's micro-expressions of satisfaction, the calculated pauses, the way he used Anakin's love as a weapon against him. The Force walking showed him these moments not as he'd lived them, but as they truly were. A careful orchestrated fall with every emotional wound exploited, every fear amplified, every noble instinct twisted into a chain. I was never meant to become a master. I was meant to become a slave, just a different kind than I'd been on Tatooine. The temporal stream yanked Anakin forward, past his present, into tomorrow's horror. He stood invisible in the Jedi Temple as Order 66 began. Clone troopers, his brothers in arms, turned their weapons on unsuspecting Jedi. He watched Ki-Adi-Mundi's shock, Aayla Secura's betrayal, Plo Koon's fighter exploding in flames. But the Force walking showed him more than death. It revealed the mechanism. He could feel the inhibitor chips activating, overwhelming the clone's free will. Rex fighting against it, tears streaming down his face as his hands moved against his volition. Cody, emotionless, firing on Obi-Wan without hesitation. Good soldiers following orders they never chose to follow. They're victims too. The scene shifted to Palpatine's office. His future self knelt before the newly declared Emperor, accepting the name Vader. But through the Force walking, Anakin could perceive what his grief-stricken future self couldn't. Padme was never truly in danger. The visions of her death were fabrications, Sith illusions created to drive him to desperation. Your wife's death was necessary. Your pain will make you powerful. The truth hit Anakin like a physical blow. Padme would die not from mysterious causes, but because his fall to the dark side would create the very future he'd tried to prevent. A self-fulfilling prophecy orchestrated by a master manipulator. Another shift. Younglings hiding in the council chambers, looking up at a figure in black robes. Anakin wanted to look away, but forced himself to watch. These children trusted him, called him Master Skywalker. Their fear transformed into confusion, then terror, as his future self ignited his blade. Is this what I become? This is the price of Palpatine's promises? The Force walking didn't judge, didn't comfort. It simply showed truth. Past, present, and potential futures spreading like a vast web. And at the center of every dark thread sat Palpatine, spider-like, pulling strings that turned love into possessiveness, fear into hatred, and heroes into monsters. But knowing the web existed meant he could tear it apart. The time stream swirled, carrying Anakin to moments he'd never witnessed. He stood in Palpatine's private chambers as the Chancellor met with Count Dooku via hologram, not as enemies, but as master and apprentice coordinating both sides of the war. The battle on Kamino must appear convincing, but ensure Skywalker finds the vault. His discovery of the artifact is essential. Anakin's blood ran cold. Even this, his discovery of the Force-walking catalyst, had been orchestrated. He grows more powerful, but also more unstable. The Council's distrust pushes him closer to you, as you predicted. Everything proceeds as I have foreseen. Soon, young Skywalker will face visions that will break his spirit entirely. The artifact will show him futures of loss, driving him to prevent them through any means necessary. But Palpatine had miscalculated. The Force walking wasn't just showing Anakin's loss, it was revealing the machinery behind it. The scene shifted to earlier conversations, Palpatine subtly undermining Obi-Wan's teachings, praising Anakin's defiance of the Council, always positioning himself as the only one who truly understood. Every word calculated to isolate Anakin from support systems, making the Chancellor his sole confidant. Another shift. Palpatine meeting with Kaminoan Prime Minister Lama Su years before the Clone Wars, discussing the installation of inhibitor chips. A safeguard against rogue Jedi who might betray the Republic. The contingency orders were built into the army from its inception. Anakin watched Palpatine orchestrate the deaths of millions with the casual ease of someone arranging furniture. Entire planetary systems marked for devastation to push the Senate toward greater executive powers. The Jedi spread thin deliberately, isolated from each other, weakened by a war designed to have no victor except Palpatine himself. I've been dancing to this tune since the day we met. The 9-year-old boy who'd stood before the then Senator of Naboo had been marked as a tool from the first moment. Every triumph, every loss, every choice that felt like his own, all orchestrated. But the Force walking gave him something Palpatine hadn't anticipated. Perspective, and with perspective came clarity of purpose. The Force pulled Anakin into a future echo he dreaded most, the medical facility on Polis Massa. Padme lay dying, not from physical wounds, but from a shattered heart. His future self, now Vader, stood outside, unable to enter, trapped in the mechanical prison of his own choices. But the Force walking let Anakin step inside, to hear her final words fully. There's still good in him. She spent her last breath on hope for the monster he'd become. The medical droids confirmed what Anakin now understood. She died from the dark side itself, from the weight of his fall crushing her spirit through their Force bond. The scene rewound, showing him moments with Padme he'd forgotten or overlooked. Her trying to tell him about her pregnancy earlier, but him being too focused on his visions to truly listen. Her attempts to discuss the Republic's increasing authoritarianism, dismissed because he trusted Palpatine. Her growing isolation as he became consumed by fear of losing her. I was so afraid of her dying that I stopped seeing her living. Another echo, Padme in the Senate, fighting against the very powers Palpatine accumulated. She stood with Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and others who saw the Republic's transformation into tyranny. His wife had been working to preserve democracy while he'd been unknowingly helping to destroy it. The Force walking showed him a conversation he'd never witnessed. Padme confiding in her handmaidens about her fears, not of dying in childbirth, but of losing Anakin to the darkness she saw growing in him. She'd noticed his increasing anger, his absolutist thinking, his willingness to use violence as a first resort. I'm losing him, not to death, but to something worse. I should have trusted her. She was stronger than I ever gave her credit for. In this echo of tomorrow, she spoke to their unborn children, promising them a better galaxy than the one emerging. Twin infants who would grow up never knowing their parents, hidden away because of what he would become. The truth crystallized. Saving Padme didn't mean preventing her death through dark powers. It meant not falling to the dark side at all. The Force walking crescendoed, showing Anakin the full scope of what his fall would bring. Alderaan atomized, its peaceful billions erased in an instant by a weapon his empire would build. Jedha's holy city destroyed, the Force faithful slaughtered. Worlds enslaved, cultures erased, children recruited into service of tyranny. He saw himself as Vader, standing beside Palpatine as they ruled through fear. But more than the grand horrors, he witnessed the personal ones. Ahsoka, his former Padawan, facing him with tears in her eyes, forced to fight the master who'd abandoned her. I won't leave you, not this time. Her possible death by his blade, or her narrow escape. The Force walking showed both possibilities, both equally breaking what remained of Anakin's heart. Owen and Beru Lars, who'd raised his son, burned alive at the Empire's command. His own children growing up in hiding, Luke on the same moisture farm where Anakin's mother had died, Leia as a princess fighting the very empire her father served. The boy would redeem him eventually, the Force whispered, but at such terrible cost. 20 years of darkness, billions dead, the Jedi Order extinguished, all because he'd trusted the wrong person and feared the wrong future. But then the Force walking showed him something else, moments of choice yet to come, pivot points where different decisions created different futures. If he warned the Council now, even if they didn't believe him initially, if he trusted Obi-Wan with the full truth, if he worked with Padme instead of trying to protect her from afar. The future isn't fixed. These are echoes of probability, not certainty. The artifact pulsed in his consciousness, its purpose becoming clear. It wasn't meant to torment with visions of doom, but to teach through possibility. The ancient Jedi who'd created it understood that seeing consequences could change choices. One final vision, himself, older but not fallen, teaching a new generation of Jedi alongside Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Padme, gray-haired but alive, serving as Chancellor of a reformed republic. Their children, trained in the Force but also in wisdom, bringing balance without apocalypse. It was possible. All of it was still possible. Anakin gasped as the Force walking released him, finding himself back in the flooded vault of Kamino, but only seconds had passed. Rex was still shouting, blaster fire still echoing from the corridor. The crystal artifact dimmed in his mechanical hand, its purpose served. General, we need to move! But Anakin stood transformed. The knowledge of possible futures weighed on him, but also freed him. He knew Palpatine's plan, understood the web of manipulation, saw the trap before it could spring. Rex, order your men to pull back to the surface, and have them run a level 5 diagnostic on their inhibitor chips. Sir? Trust me, Captain, those chips aren't what we've been told. They're a threat to every clone and every Jedi. Anakin secured the artifact and ignited his lightsaber, moving with renewed purpose. As they fought through the Separatist forces, his mind was already working through the implications. He couldn't simply accuse the Chancellor. Palpatine had spent years building unassailable credibility. But armed with knowledge of the future, Anakin could dismantle the Sith Lord's plans piece by piece. Reaching the surface, he found Obi-Wan directing the defense. His former master turned, relief evident on his face. Anakin, what did you find down there? Answers, Master. Answers to questions we didn't know to ask. The Separatists weren't after the clones, they were after proof. Proof that this entire war is a lie. What are you talking about? I need to speak with the Council, all of them. And Master, whatever happens next, know that you've been the truest friend I've ever had. I should have trusted you more. The battle still raged around them, but in that moment, Obi-Wan saw something different in his former Padawan's eyes. Not the usual fire and confusion, but clarity. Whatever Anakin had discovered in that vault had changed him fundamentally. Then we'd better win this battle first. Together? Always, Master. Always. The Jedi Council chamber felt smaller with the weight of Anakin's revelation. He stood in the center, the Force-walking artifact placed before them, as 11 skeptical masters processed his words. Only Yoda seemed unsurprised, his ancient eyes studying Anakin with unusual intensity. Visions, always in motion they are. Certain, nothing is. These weren't just visions, Master Yoda. I walked through time itself. I saw Palpatine orchestrating both sides of this war. The inhibitor chips in the clones' brains aren't safeguards, they're weapons aimed at us. You're asking us to believe the Supreme Chancellor, who has led the Republic through its darkest hour, is secretly a Sith Lord? Based on visions from an artifact we know nothing about? Test the chips. Run a deep scan for embedded protocols. Look for Order 66. Even if such protocols existed, we cannot move against the Chancellor without proof. The Senate would see it as a Jedi coup. Anakin's frustration flared, but he remembered the Force Walking's lesson. His anger had always been his weakness, used against him. He took a breath, centered himself in a way that surprised even Obi-Wan. Then don't move against him, but protect yourselves. Quietly have the chips removed or disabled. Investigate without accusation. Palpatine's power comes from operating in shadow. Shine light on his actions without revealing you suspect him. Wisdom and caution there is, but also wisdom in young Skywalker's words, perhaps. I can discreetly investigate the inhibitor chips. If there are hidden protocols, I'll find them. And I'll examine the Senate's emergency powers legislation, look for patterns of manipulation. This could all be separatist deception, using the artifact to divide us. Then let me prove it. Palpatine has been grooming me, trying to turn me against you. Let me play along, gather evidence, but this time I'll know what he's doing. The council exchanged glances, years of distrust warring with the conviction in Anakin's voice. My boy, I heard about your discovery on Kamino. Most fascinating. You must tell me everything. Anakin had prepared for this, knowing that Palpatine expected him to share the visions of loss and pain. Instead, he crafted a careful half-truth. It showed me the cost of war, Chancellor. So much death still to come. I saw Padme dying. The pain in his voice was real. He had seen it, after all. Palpatine's eyes glinted with satisfaction. These visions, they trouble you. The Jedi would tell you to let go, to accept loss, but you and I know better, don't we? There must be a way to prevent such tragedy. Is there? The Jedi speak of acceptance, but I can't accept losing her. The Jedi fear what they don't understand. There are powers they refuse to teach, abilities they've hidden away, powers that could save those you love. Every word confirmed what the Force Walking had shown him. Anakin felt the dark side tendrils reaching for his fear, his anger trying to take root, but knowing the manipulation made it resistible. What kind of powers? Patience, my young friend. Such knowledge cannot be rushed, but when the time is right, when you're ready to move beyond the Jedi's limitations. Palpatine let the promise hang. After leaving, Anakin activated his secure comlink, transmitting everything through an encrypted channel to Obi-Wan. He's definitely trying to turn me. He's promising power to save Padme. Be careful, Anakin, if he truly is a Sith Lord. I know, but Master, I feel it. The dark side surrounds him like a shroud. The Council needs to know. Shaak Ti's investigation is more urgent than we thought. Meanwhile, on Kamino, Shaak Ti had found what they feared. Buried deep in their inhibitor chips programming was Order 66, along with dozens of other contingency orders. The proof they needed, hidden in plain sight. But Palpatine had sensed the shift in the Force. His pieces were being moved without his knowledge. The endgame was approaching faster than planned. The Senate building stood against Coruscant's twilight as Anakin made his choice. Shaak Ti had confirmed the inhibitor chip's true purpose. Several Jedi had quietly begun removing them from their most trusted clones. The Council finally believed, but they still moved too slowly, too cautiously. Palpatine had summoned him urgently, claiming to have discovered the identity of the Sith Lord. It was a trap, Anakin knew, designed to isolate him from the Council at the crucial moment, but it was also an opportunity. He entered the Chancellor's office with his comlink transmitting on a coded frequency, recording everything. Palpatine stood at the window, no longer bothering to hide the darkness that radiated from him. I know what you are. I know what you are. Palpatine turned, his grandfatherly mask falling away. Do you? And what have the Jedi told you? The Jedi told me nothing. The Force itself showed me. Every manipulation, every lie, every death you've orchestrated. You killed my mother through the Tuskens. You've been planning to kill my wife. You want to kill the Jedi, democracy, everything I've fought for. Kill? My boy, I want to save you. Save you from the mediocrity the Jedi offer. Together we could rule, as master and slave. I've been a slave before. Never again. Palpatine's eyes turned yellow. Then you will die with your Jedi friends. Order 66 has already been delayed. Did you really think we wouldn't find your contingency orders? Rex and the 501st have had their chips removed. Others are following. Your perfect trap is broken. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Palpatine's face, but it quickly transformed into rage. Lightning erupted from his fingertips, but Anakin was ready. His lightsaber absorbed the assault as he backed toward the door. The Council knows. The Senate will know. Your shadow game is over. Then I'll rule through power alone. Palpatine reached for his own lightsaber, but Anakin didn't engage. Instead, he used the Force to shatter the massive window behind Palpatine, causing chaos as wind roared through the office. In the confusion, he transmitted a single message: now. The Senate chamber erupted as Padme Amidala presented evidence of Palpatine's treachery. Recordings Anakin had made, proof of the inhibitor chips, documentation of orchestrated battles. Bail Organa and Mon Mothma supported her as senators realized the scope of deception. Above, Palpatine fought viciously as Jedi Masters arrived, not just Windu, but Yoda, Obi-Wan, and others. Without Order 66 to eliminate them simultaneously, without Anakin as his weapon, the Sith Lord faced the Order's full strength. You've lost. Have I? The dark side cannot be destroyed. If not through me, then through another. Through him. He pointed at Anakin. I've seen his future. He will fall. Maybe. The dark side will always call to me. Fear, anger, passion, they're part of who I am. But so is love, hope, and choice. I choose balance, not the Jedi's denial of emotion or the Sith's slavery to it. Balance. Palpatine made a final desperate attack, but unified, the Jedi prevailed. As the Sith Lord fell, his last words were a curse. The prophecy. Misread. It was. Later, as the Republic began to heal, Anakin stood with Padme on their apartment's veranda. She was still pregnant, still alive, the terrible future prevented. What happens now? I don't know. The Council's reviewing everything, the code, the teachings, our role in the Republic. Maybe the prophecy wasn't about destroying the Sith, but about finding true balance. Light and dark acknowledged, neither controlling. The younglings are asking when Master Skywalker will teach them about the Force-walking artifact. When they're ready to see that futures aren't fixed, that every choice matters. As Coruscant's sun set, the Force felt different. Not lighter or darker, but somehow more whole. The Clone Wars would end through negotiation now, not conquest. The Jedi would evolve, not perish, and somewhere in the galaxy, balance had finally begun. Because one man saw tomorrow's shadow and chose today's light, the Force had given him a gift, not just to see the future, but to change it. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite possibilities within that galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, always.